It's a great question about, will I have enough protein for muscle recovery after a workout? Okay. All cells are fueled by sugar, including muscle cells. All cells are fueled by sugar. When we work out, we use our muscles primarily, and we burn a tremendous amount of sugar, known as glycogen. It's a complex carbohydrate found in animals. We do utilize protein as a fuel source every day. People utilize protein as fuel. Typically, according to the sports physiology texts, will tend to burn between 1/10 to 1/4 of 1% of our total fuel for the day as protein, depending upon our activity levels and the way we choose to put them together. Typically between 1/10 to 1/4 of 1%. So if, for instance, we were using 3,000 calories a day and we used 1/10 of 1% of that, that would be 3 calories per day from protein. Does get used as fuel. Unless we eat insufficient quantities of carbohydrate, in which case we could consume protein as fuel by converting it to carbohydrate. It would be highly energy inefficient, but it could be done. On a healthy program, however, where we're using our carbohydrate consumed as carbohydrate for fuel, we can count on using about 3 to 10 calories, or about 1 to 2 grams of protein per day as fuel. What the muscles used when you work out, what needs to be replaced is the carbohydrates that were used. Now, you brought up several issues there, however, which are worthy of mentioning, because you said if I'm not eating certain animals as my protein sources, or if I'm using nuts or seeds instead. Let's remember that we like to believe that we name our nutrients according to their predominating caloronutrient. So if we call a carbohydrate food something that's very high in carbohydrates, something that's predominated by carbohydrate, we call a fatty food something that's predominated by fat. We call a protein food something that's predominated by protein. However, nuts and seeds are approximately 75% to 80% of their calories from fat. We like to refer to them as a protein food, even though they're 75 to 80% of their calories are coming from fat. Most meats, not all meats, offer a predominant caloronutrient source from fat. They're dominated by fats. There are a few meats that have more protein than fat, but most meats have more fat than protein. Yet we still refer to nuts and seeds and animal fare as protein food. Why? Because who wants to refer to them as fat? We don't want to think, hey, I'm just eating more fat. Has all the times you've been asked, where do you get your protein, has anybody ever asked you, where do you get your fat? Recovery of muscles. There's an excellent book, Nutrition and Sports Performance. It was the results of research organized and run by the International Olympic Committee. I tend to think the research science in that book is quite credible. And they say what you need to replace after any type of physical exertion is the carbohydrates. That we have a pool of protein that are known as available proteins. They're circulating for use as needed. There are structurally integrated proteins, and then there are proteins that are free-floating. And we're talking about a gram or two in 24 hours. There's plenty available for the muscle to recover, even for muscle growth. When you actually look at how many grams of protein are required for muscle growth, for instance, in an infant, eating a diet of pure mother's milk, showing the fastest growth spurt known to man. They're on a diet where they're only eating 6% of their calories per day from protein, mother's milk being 6% calories from protein. And they show us the biggest or the fastest growth spurt known to man. They put on plenty of muscle. And so, in terms of recovery of the muscle and in terms of growth of muscle, protein is only an issue if you're not getting enough. Enough, according to scientists, is 3 to 9% of total calories consumed. If we look at my chart that tells us how much protein are in various foods, what you'll find is that with only one or two exceptions where the number is 10%, almost all fruits range between 3 to 9%, exactly what is recommended in terms of protein content. And so it becomes a misconception that what you need is more protein. Protein doesn't result in muscular growth per se. If it did, no bodybuilders would ever enter a gym. They would just go to kitchens. Muscle growth comes from working out seriously, a specific way. And the quality of that muscle is going to be determined by the quality of fuel supplied. But recovery, I always find it fascinating when people tell me, I train so hard it takes me 4 days to recover. I go, you recover so badly, so poorly, that it takes you 4 days. I can do your workout and be recovered in 22 hours because I know how to recover. In fact, all athletes and basically all people know how to train far in excess of their ability to recover or their knowledge of how to recover. And so my work has been focusing more on teaching athletes how to recover rather than how to train.